Argentina may have just found its next Messi, and he wasn't even born in Argentina. His name is Steven Kiki Ramos. He's 17 years old. He was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. He grew up in Buenos Aires, and on July 28, 2026, he became the first Haitian-born player to ever wear the Argentina crest, at any level, in any category, in the entire history of the AFA. That's not a stat pulled out of thin air to hook you. It's verified, it's real, and by the time this video ends, you'll understand why coaches at Vélez Sarsfield started comparing a teenager in the 6th division to Vinícius Jr. Stay with me, because this story doesn't start on a football pitch. It starts with a disaster. January 12, 2010. Haiti. In seconds, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake ripped Port-au-Prince apart. More than 200,000 people died. Hospitals collapsed. Schools crumbled. Homes vanished. It remains one of the deadliest natural disasters this century has seen. Buried inside that devastation was an infant, just months old, born into a family suddenly fighting simply to stay alive. One of hundreds of thousands doing the same. You don't choose where you're born. You don't choose the chaos that swallows you the moment you enter the world. But every so often, in the middle of that chaos, someone steps in and changes everything. For baby Steven, that someone was an Argentine family. Out of the wreckage, he was adopted at 8 months old and carried more than 6,000 kilometers away, from Port-au-Prince to Argentina. A new country, a new language, a life he'd never remember choosing, but one that would come to define him completely. Here's where most people would stop the story. Haitian orphan, adopted by an Argentine family. A good headline, but not the real one. The real one is what happened next. Fast forward 6 years. Little Steven is now just another kid in the neighborhoods of Buenos Aires, doing what practically every Argentine kid does. Chasing a battered ball around the potrero. Nobody is scouting 6-year-olds. Nobody is filming him. There's no algorithm, no highlight reel, no viral clip waiting to happen. There's just one neighbor, a die-hard Vélez Sarsfield fan, who watches this kid play and sees something the others miss. Speed most kids don't have. An instinct for the ball you can't teach. And he does the one thing that ends up changing everything. He tells the family to take the boy to a trial at Liniers. Picture how fragile that single moment really is. If that neighbor isn't a Vélez fan, if he says nothing, if the family never makes the trip, there's no debut, no headline, just a kid who loved football and faded into the crowd. But he does go, and Vélez Sarsfield, one of the most respected academies in Argentine football, says yes. Right there, the ordinary tale ends, and the football chapter begins. From that trial forward, Steven Ramos is a Vélez player. Not a guest, not a charity case. A product of one of the most disciplined youth systems on the continent, he tears through the divisions the way every serious prospect does. Quietly, relentlessly, year after year, category after category, until the people inside the club stop using his real name altogether, Kiki. And here's the detail that tells you everything about the player he's becoming. That nickname wasn't random. At Vélez, they started calling him Kiki because of how he played. Vertical, explosive, a straight line to goal. The same traits people use to describe Kylian Mbappé. Let that sink in. Before Kiki Ramos ever pulled on an Argentina youth jersey, the people watching him train every single day were already comparing his running style to one of the best players alive. That's not manufactured YouTube hype. That's a nickname earned, sweat by sweat, on the training pitch. By the time he reaches the 6th division, Vélez's U17 level, the numbers explode to match the hype. 12 goals in the national youth tournament. 4 goals in a single demolition of Atlético de Rafaela, a goal against Boca Juniors, yes, that Boca, in a performance reportedly decisive enough to convince the national coaching staff he was ready. Blistering speed, real power, the ability to shred a defender in a one-on-one. Scouts circling Vélez started dropping another name entirely, Vinícius Jr. Not because he's already at that level, he's 17, remember, but because the raw physical tools are unmistakably similar. Most redemption arcs would tie a neat bow right here. A kid survives tragedy, Gets adopted, joins a giant club, starts scoring goals. Fairy tale complete. But real life doesn't move in a straight line, and Kiki Ramos's next chapter turns brutal, fast. Right as Ramos hits his stride, scoring, climbing, turning heads inside the club, injuries strike. And they don't just cost him a few weeks, they wipe out almost the entire season. Anyone who's played youth sports knows exactly what that feels like from the inside. You don't get injured for a highlight reel. You get injured watching your teammates play without you, while kids your own age keep playing, keep getting seen, keep getting talked about, and you're stuck on the bench, watching your window slam shut before it ever fully opened. For most players, that's the year the dream dies. Not with a bang. It just quietly fades to nothing. Kiki Ramos refused to let that happen. 2026 arrives, and with it, the version of Ramos that Vélez always believed was hiding underneath, healthy, sharp, scoring again, playing the kind of football that doesn't just earn minutes, it demands attention. Then, in June 2026, the moment arrives in the most unremarkable way imaginable. Picture it. An ordinary day, Kiki Ramos, sitting in an online math class like any other teenager on the planet. Phone buzzing beside him. His personal coach has sent a message. Diego Placente, head coach of Argentina's U17 side, has called him up. Not a trial, not a maybe, a real call-up, training alongside two of his own Vélez teammates, Facundo Salinas and Benjamin Vallejo. By his own admission, Ramos never saw that first call coming. The nerves hit the second he realized he was training beside some of the best young players in the country. By his second session, he'd already made himself belong. Weeks of training follow. Then, on July 28, 2026, everything collides at once. Everything that neighbor spotted at age 6. Everything Vélez built over a decade. Everything that survived an earthquake, an ocean crossing, and a season stolen by injury. Argentina U17 versus Ecuador. On the surface, just a friendly preparation for the FIFA U17 World Cup landing in Qatar this November. In reality, the exact moment Argentine football rewrites its own record books. Placente sends out his strongest 11. Argentina dominates. Goals from Benjamin Vallejo and Facundo Salinas put the albiceleste up 2-1, with Mateo Villanueva pulling one back for Ecuador. Then, in the second half, substitute number 22 steps onto the pitch wearing the Argentina crest. Steven Kiki Ramos becomes the first Haitian-born player to ever represent the Argentina national team. At any level, in any category, in the entire history of the country's football. Not a clickbait headline. A verified, historic fact, permanently etched into the record books. Argentina wins 2-1, but for Kiki Ramos, the scoreline barely matters. He didn't just play a friendly, he redrew the map of who gets to claim that shirt. So, is Kiki Ramos Argentina's next Messi? Honestly, we don't know yet, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. One substitute appearance in a U17 friendly doesn't crown anyone a superstar. He hasn't played a single minute for Vélez's first team. He hasn't stepped foot in a senior World Cup. He's 17, and Argentine football has watched dozens of can't-miss prospects vanish before ever reaching the senior side. But here's what he already owns that most 17-year-olds never will. A documented scoring record at one of the most respected academies in South America. A physical profile scouts are already benchmarking against elite talents. The mental steel to claw back from a lost season. And now, a permanent line in the history books that no injury, no setback, no doubt can ever erase. The next stop is the U17 World Cup in Qatar this November and December. If Placente keeps his faith in him, that's the moment the entire football world, not just Argentina, finally sees Kiki Ramos in action. The debut is done, and the real test starts now, proving this wasn't a lightning strike, but the beginning of something much bigger. Drop your prediction in the comments right now, and subscribe, because when Kiki Ramos steps onto that World Cup pitch, we'll be the first ones breaking it down.